inbox, and it is to do with twin flame reunion, twin flame reconciliation. And I was trying to really think about what the question meant, number one. So it was from a fellow subscriber and also a person that does come to me, and I'll leave the name anonymous, but it was a question relating to how does the divine masculine heal and what are the tips? And I think really in the context of the question is for us to understand when we come back into reunion with any individual that really energetically we've had history with, that we directly have had wounds with, it is pretty challenging. And, you know, when we talk about doing the work, it's important to understand that both parties really need to be doing the work. Now, we constantly are, you know, there's this fallacy really that the other person is ahead or behind. And sometimes they are. But if you have, as the divine feminine, done the work, and, you know, Giggle and I touched base on this because initially I did get this message and we were really mulling over what it was meaning. So I did get a secondary message, and this was to do with, okay, when we go back into a connection, how directly do we address the triggers? Now, Kerry and I also spoke about this subject yesterday. It's really unique that everyone's asking me this question right now, and I'll tell you the reasons why. Number one, for those of you that are watching it in 2021, it is due to the fact that we're moving towards the eclipse in Sagittarius. Now, Sagittarius relates to religion, spirituality, our values. And what you're going to find, ATM, is that we can be exhibiting some very firm boundaries all of a sudden, and lineage can be coming up, which is the conditioning. And in the twin flame path for the first wavers, our role was to break down the traditional connections. Okay, so that becomes quite difficult because initially when we go into it, we're raised in a certain way. Our role in the family was a certain part. And then through the journey, we do tend to meet a lot of oppositions, okay? And it's really to break down whether it is functional or whether it is outdated. And so sometimes twins can actually get together that are older, younger, different races, different cultures. Sometimes it can be quite taboo in the way we get together. So it really, again, does depend on where you are. There is a time for the tips and there's a time for the actual coaching. And that's to link to the wound and say, okay, how can we move beyond this point so that we can shift it? Now, another fallacy with reaching, you know, getting to a point, you're getting communication, getting to a point that you're going into reunion is, and this is a frustrating part, and this can cause dramas. It can be location. If you're in the same country, it can be if you have a need and, you know, a benchmark of what you're needing with movement moving forward. And that may be, okay, well, you know, we've stated that we're going to reconcile and then the behavior comes back elsewise. And so a lot of times for the counterpart, be it masculine or feminine, because believe me, when I do talk about these wounds and I do talk about these subjects, regardless of whether you are a divine feminine or a divine masculine, the same rules apply. And that was another thing I was a bit perplexed by. It's like, look, it is the mirror. So number one, if you have a wound and you've worked on it and you've developed tools, sometimes accidentally you can go into it like you're the healer. And we need to revert to healing ourselves, maybe giving examples of how we dealt with things in a perspective sense. But 9 times out of 10, you need to remember not to go into it in a sense of being their counselor. Because again, it will cause the friction within the connection, especially in a twin flame path. So if you're seeing in the initial stages, when you get back into communication, when you're working on yourself, and some of you have worked on yourself very hard, when you go back into it, whatever they're resolving, at the moment it is coming up because of the eclipse in Sagittarius. The other thing I can say is with their wounds, when it's coming up, it just really depends on how much work you've actually done. So if both parties are coming back into communication and all this junk is coming up in relation to the past and what happened, what we need to realize is A, is it serving a purpose? Is it so that we can see each other's perspective? Or B, is it victim consciousness? Sometimes, which is quite normal, which did happen to me, and I talked to Twin about this morning, and it was that when we came back into reconciliation, you know if it's going to move or you know if it's not. And it doesn't mean that it's not coming back together. It generally means if you're really butting heads, there's a little bit more work to do. And you still can navigate through it, but you're probably going to need more support. So with the reconciliation, when you do come back into communication, yes, you have had a lot of history. For me personally, when I came back into reconciliation, how my divine masculine handled their healing and how I handled it, we sort of swapped stories a lot of the path. So, you know, whatever he would embody, at a point in the path, I would end up having to go through. And it directly tends to happen so that we can see each other's perspective. And so the tension between the connection isn't there. So it's really good to do like a little bit of reflection and see how you have walked a mile in that person's shoes. But always, always say that doesn't mean it's going to take that long for them to deal with that circumstance. So I can give you some examples. For some of you, it might have been that you were in a toxic connection and you were dealing with it, and maybe it took you 5 years to deal with that circumstance. Maybe it took you a year. And so it's almost like, because we're using our intuition, we're directly marking it against our direct personal experience. And not everyone's experience is going to be exactly the same. And from my experience, 9 times out of 10, divine masculines do move through their wounds a lot quicker. But when divine feminine has a fixation on how quick it should go or how long you think yours went versus theirs, and you get triggered by it, it can cause tension in the connection. When you psychologically let go and allow that to play out, that's when things can move. Another thing is, in a fallacy in a situation, it's a little bit like this Christmas analogy I've actually, made, is that a lot of times we can have things around Christmas coming up, and this is a perfect example of when something arises in life, not to sweep it under the carpet. So, a lot of times divine feminines can get frustrated, or divine masculines, is because we don't say what we mean right at the point that something's occurring. And yes, like the traffic light analogy I use, it's really healthy to go, okay, I'm triggered, or okay, I have something on my mind, and to pause, because, you don't want to go straight into retaliation mode. You want to be able to digest the information to understand how you should best, deal with that circumstance, then to get on with it and actually discuss it. So with discussion, you need to more state from your point of view how you saw something, but you also need to look at, okay, is this wound related, and is this something I need to address? Even if the person has planted that wound there. And then you can still talk about it. It can't be talked about. It can be, look, i.e. you planted the wound there, let's admit. However, this now lives in my body and it directly is impacting our new connection. How now can I best navigate it? Be completely transparent with you that this is what is physically going on with me, and I'm working on it. And, sometimes that person then can go into a very safe space and be quite supportive of you. But at the end of the day, once the wound is in there, it's really something that we need to learn to resolve. But it does come through rebuilding trust. So it is where we can go slow and we can go fast. So sometimes when we're having contact with masculine will come in to test the space. Very similar to feminine. We both mirror each other. So a lot of the journey is quite similar. However, a lot of what is shown to each other is how to grow without attachment. Okay, so there's a lot of codependency in the initial stage. There can be a lot of abandonment wounds. At the moment, we've got a lot of base chakra coming up. What's the other thing I can explain? Is that I've warned many of you before that going in, it's not like that you'd love to move into the connection with a slate clean, but you're going in with history, but you also simultaneously have to act like it's a brand new connection. So how do you do that? It is telling yourself constantly in those early natal stage of being in the union stage, is that this is a brand new situation. So you need to, when the trigger comes up, you need to then pause and picture a circle around you and say, okay, is this the past, or is this relevant to something of a pattern that is continuing to happen that's different? Then you can address it. And 9 times out of 10, it will mean that we do need to be able, and this sounds scary, guys, you do need to be willing to lose it. So the less attachment you have to it, the reason why we really go through major purges is so we have less attachment, and then we can create those healthy boundaries. And generally the healthy boundary is I can and can't do X, Y, and Z. Hi, Dal. So moving in, for instance, and feel free to ask questions, and I'll try and explain as in-depth as possible to give you some ideas of some of these triggers. So the question was, I'll read the email. Okay, so this person has reconciled, okay? So the revelation has been that there has been wounds in divine masculine. And there's wounds on both sides, guys, okay? Now, sometimes we don't know whether we're, a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, divine feminine was embodying divine masculine's energy. And we do swap, like I said. So it's really about looking at the yin to the yang, because we have both polarities in us. When you're in the emotional body, you're in the divine feminine polarity. When you're in the reactive mode, you could be in the Mars energy, but you also, if it's relating to work and the things you're able to do in life, the physicality, the 3D, it can be divine masculine. There's the yin to the yang. So when you look at videos in the twin flame path, you can also, after you listen to those videos, in a healthier octane, step back and see how it directly relates to you in your working life, how it relates to you in mannerisms and ways that you deal with circumstances, and then go into the emotion. So it's always about trying to get that balance in the yin and yang in the connection. Now, no man or woman is an island, and a lot of the healing at the very end of the path prior to reunion is rough as heck. I'll tell you, and I did say to Giggle the other day, go back and look at some of my videos from the end of 2018 moving into 19. In the last 3 weeks, and especially from October, I'm seeing massive patterns with preparation ready for union. And that will be pocket groups of you. Now, how this can play out is initially, if you do look back to October, usually prior to reconciliation, you're reaching union with self, and it feels like hell. I'll just be perfectly honest. You go through a huge purgatory experience. It can feel like dark night of the soul. It can feel like deep depression. There can be a lot of ego that can come up, and you can think, gee, I've really worked through this. But it's literally squeezing any old energy out of you that is defining you, so that you can be more ready, and you'll be grateful after that you can be in the connection and hear the circumstances, and the triggers can come in, and you will more easily, readily be able to handle it without running, because both masculines and feminines run. Sometimes it can be when you're in the reunion stage that something gets too heavy, and divine feminine is feeling as though they can't stay, divine masculine's feeling the same. You're both simultaneously doing it, but one won't admit it, the other will react, okay? So in the return of it, now this is what was said. The DM is realizing the painful truth, and we both go through that revelation. What the other person has been through and the abandonment wounds. Look, it's what we have to realize is that many times in the twin flame path, divine masculines don't want to hurt you, okay? And it's a little bit like meeting a person at the wrong time, and they can see what they are psychologically, emotionally, physically able to do and what they aren't. But the problem is that because we have an expectation, we have some kind of lottery ticket in it, It's like, but we want it now. Yet when we step back and we have more tools in life and we're able to actually more take ourselves out of the picture, but look into that storyline, if we're really bluntly honest, we can see, you know, and I had to admit it to myself, the last time we had our reconciliation, when I did observe the painting, and it was on Hindsight 360, my divine masculine had 99 problems, okay? Now, did he have a connection to me? Yes, he did. Was he in love with me? Yes, he was. Was he able to be present with me the way I needed, right? Benchmark in a connection? No. Now, it wasn't that he didn't want to. So a lot of times when you guys get breadcrumbs, it's because they do have the connection to you, but they also do have some situations that they're trying to handle. But it has been conditional love we have been showing each other. So the unconditional love is it's not like that we don't trust, and we have to learn how to retrust. We have to learn how to feel safe, but it's also looking at things very psychologically. It's okay, where is that person at right now? Do they need to go fast? Do they need to go slow? Do they have some things that they're cycling out of their lives? Is it going to impact me if I'm waiting in the waiting room? And if it is, you then need to say, okay, what would I, as the divine feminine or masculine, because energies swap, what would I need to do to keep sane? And am I able to do that? You know, and that is the healthy boundary, guys, is am I able to? Is that meeting my needs? Now, regardless of where they are or what they're doing, you are a very separate energy as well as a joint energy. And if you are doing things that aren't working for you, it's going to start coming through in trigger points, and that will come on both sides. So again, it's about learning to really check in with yourself each day and to get to a point you can be honest. So that may be a feeling of, okay, in the timeline of where we stand after all I've endured, what I was really looking for was a lot of movement. And I'm looking at you right now and there's a whole lot of nothing. And it's not that there's a whole lot of nothing. It's that your needs are higher than what they can give. So you can do two things. You can step back and say, I need to get more grounded because this isn't going to work for me like that. I have needs, and it's okay to have needs, but also not to give your power away. And that may be, you know, interacting with that person a lot. So it might be that they need to go and do the things that they need to do to tie their life up. And to say, but not to say, don't worry, you know, I'm going to be here forever, because that, again, can delay the sorting out of situations. It's not a conversation that needs to be had. It's more what I'm observing right now, X, Y, and Z, is you have 99 problems. Okay, I'm not involving myself in that circle of concern. I'm stepping back. You know, what I'm needing is movement and acceptance of that. Now, in the connection, the same thing will apply. And what I did see was there is a lot of focus on what the other person is doing. Now, the reason why separation is really valuable is because you are to master yourself. And with that mastery, always, always, always keep in mind that no man or woman is an island. So a lot of the triggers will come from childhood. The other thing is, if you can see what went down after you broke up, you can then rebuild your life in a whole sense. Not with a person, with yourself. And that usually means disconnecting from all relationships, all intimate connections, integrating, pouring your sacral chakra energy into your life, and the proverbial getting your crap together. And the funny thing is, the eclipse, where is the eclipse falling for me? It's my 12th house. It's like all these thoughts. It's like, gee, this has been a test, and yeah, you know. Anywho, but for Libra, it's 3rd house. So I'm being cautious on both polarities. So I don't mean to offend. I'm trying to give you my experience. And again, some of these things, they're better served in a coaching session. I do coach twins, and I always keep what they say to me. This is one big thing for me. I have coached many twins, and those twins I have coached that are in partnerships, they're still together. But I will never, unless it is a joint session, tell the other twin what is said, because it's confidential, and their wounds and their ours. And it's to help the connection, not to break the connection, because I'm not the problem. Okay, so if they're asked, but the person has to want to do that. You know, it's not my role to say, hey, Divine Masculine, come and get a booking with me. No, that person is healing themselves in their own direct way. And we need to allow that, because some of you might go, they need to go to this, they need to go to that, because then I'll be safe. And it's like, no, you are safe. Stop telling yourself that. If you're not, you shouldn't be interacting with this individual. Don't waste your time. Go and do some work. Get grounded till you realize that you are the full cup. And then when that person comes in, you're not going to sway off axis. You will not be defined with whether you are or whether you aren't. And what would I always say? My quote that I say with the, oh God, how many years has this twin flame path been? Over 25. Like, go drink a pina colada. You're on a holiday. When they come back, they come back. But the more you can go, I have everything I need. And if I don't, what am I going to do about it? You know, be that, you know, you go out with another person and you just shave the intimacy away and you enjoy the platonic frequency of, you know, fruit first, basket later. Is it that you want to actually build a connection with a male or a female in your life and really have that new vibration of enjoying people's company, of learning to trust individuals, of gauging where they're at without dancing with the devil? It can feel like we're breaking habits, a lot of habits. Now, your intuition is not the problem, and you looking at what they do cannot change what they do. If they have seen, the healthy boundary is, okay, once something has gone down that is a deal breaker, you have to follow through. It's a little bit like with our kids, and look at your childhood, for instance. What did work in education and what didn't? And the same thing applies to our friends, to our boss. It's like we wouldn't go to work and get paid a full week but never turn up. You know, you're not going to get paid. It's a reality, right? You would not, you wouldn't go, I can give you hundreds of examples. It's a little bit like, okay, you tell your child, if you keep doing that, you're going to go to your bedroom. And if you don't follow through, they think what you're saying stands for crap. And that is why people can pull the piss out of us, is because what you say, you must do. So if you say, if I was to find that X, Y, and Z happened, this is what the cause and effect would be. That's healthy boundaries. And unfortunately for us, masculine or feminine, what we need to learn is we need to follow through with that. But if we are only ever accepting the bottom of the barrel, you're only ever going to get the bottom of the barrel. You have to be willing to lose it all. And that does mean at times gauging where you're at. If you're in communication and there's movement and healing, that may not necessarily be the time to do such. But on the opposite spectrum of things, if you're having movement and it becomes dishwatery, don't accept it. Accept this, not that. Now, it doesn't have to be a dictatorship, but it is about checking in with where you're at. Okay, if we say, you know, whatever your ideal, your value, you know, eclipse in Sagittarius, your spiritual core sense of what your new beliefs are now after the last year and a half, what would your need be inside a connection? You know, some of you maybe don't want kids. Some of you are at a different age and stage. Some of you, you know, you may not want to move in together right away, and that's okay too. So they're new values, they're different. And it's not that you have to match every way everyone else does it, but it's about being that authentic version of you and saying, okay, where am I? What am I actually needing in this? And, you know, this separation is a great time to check in with what your likes and dislikes are in relationships, point blank zero. Where relationships have become a solution but a problem. So sometimes it can be in our lives, be it masculine or feminine from a codependent point of view, because we've had abandonment wounds and things to that degree go on. We may feel we're half when we're full. We may feel that we will fail if we don't have a partner next to us, and that maybe we can't handle what's going on in our life. And that could be a job, it could be a family circumstance, it might be accommodation, it might be financial. Those things are all things we can sort. And so what tends to happen, if that's a major blockage in your life, universe gives you a resume and they're like, no, 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 you know, and so we have to integrate that. The other thing is, we're only a victim when we are victims at times, but it's after what we do that counts. But if you knowingly know a circumstance is going on and you're dancing with that circumstance, you're actually not a victim, you're a partaker in the story. And so it's about selecting what part of that story you wish to play. Again, consequence for action. You know, if we're wanting more, and this came up in the webinar that I did, and I do have another one coming up. It's for Venus retrograde, so we can work through any spiritual blockages, get you guys prepared for reunion, communication, and movement, because I already have had about 5 this year come through. It's starting. You need to be ready. Are you ready? You know, could you walk into this circumstance right now? If they were to come to you at your door, and I remember Giggle asking me this years ago, oh, my gut dropped. I was like, no, not again. And then I went, why am I feeling that way? I had my house, I had my job, I had done a lot of spiritual work on myself, and I went, that's really interesting. Because why? The psychology, it's like a scratching a wound. It's like, what if it happens again? And it's like, what if it does? That's going to be my name is no, my number's no. You got to let it go. It's not my menu anymore. Doesn't work for me, doesn't define me. Even to this day, connections are very different for me. Both in my friendship groups, my family, you know, my clientele, my work on YouTube, my connection with my twin. I am my whole version of myself, and I'm always dying, and I'm always changing, and I'm always rebirthing. Do you know what I mean? And as those things come up, you look at it and, you know, you're having purpose. And so what you need to do is actually go get a metaphorical baby, which is more something to pour your energy into, something that to fall in love with life again. You've got to have passion in life, and that's both parties. Now, the masculines a lot of times felt that what they deserved was right down here, guys, okay? And it's so sad to see, because what I went through in my twin flame path, I did have a lot of crap along the journey. I'm not gonna lie, half of it you don't even know what I've been through. But I can say, in hindsight, as hellish as it was, I would rather be me than him. I'm telling you. Because the belief system inside Divine Masculine is generally, you're a fool. Why are you talking to me for? You can do so much better. I have so much going on. Sometimes there's a wound relating to their family, and they kind of don't want to put you through that. They know the potential, but it's like meeting the right girl or the right counterpart at the wrong time, and things becoming out of control. And why do they become out of control? And it's not about the chemistry. It's about the spiritual connection. It's very frightening, because you're from two opposite walks of the track. You just can't fathom how it's going to work. One thinks they're the devil, one thinks they're the angel, and it's like opposites attract, Paula Abdul. And you don't know how to manage it. You don't know how to sort it. It just seems too messy. So, you know, you get into the runner chaser mode, and it can scare each other. You're getting scared inside, but the masculine's like looking at it going, wow, man, no, we got to go. Because once you open the Divine Masculine up, that nothing's going to work for them. And feminine, on your level too, some things aren't going to work for you either. Because once you have that awakening, it's like the key's being put in, it's being turned, and welcome to your awakening. It's probably not until you start seeing the number synchronicities, and it doesn't mean to say masculine see number synchronicities. No. Usually it's the feminine. I'll be perfectly honest with you. So, and another thing is, we can attract other people's twins. You will at the end stage attract a twin for training. And that doesn't mean to say it has to be an intimate connection. It can be a spiritual friend. It could be a guru. It could be, yes, it could be an intimate person. But generally, prior to reconciliation, a lot of people will want to be in contact with you. And you'll be looking at that going, nah, and it's a test. It's okay. What's your authentic truth? Is your authentic truth that regardless of what you're getting right now, it is your truth? Well, that's living, right? So, it can be okay for you if you still have feelings for your twin, yet from a logical, humanistic experience, it's like you shouldn't. It's not about what's logical. It's about what's real. And for you, that is what's real. So, it's about being in alignment and accepting that. It's like, okay, today I'm in love with this person. And it tag aside. I get so many twins asking, do they know we're twins? You don't need the tag. That's attachment. That's you feeling that if you say that to them, you can give them a diagnosis and it's going to shore things. It's a little bit like a wedding. You don't need a certificate because it's not going to bind it. A baby, the baby is not going to bind to the connection. All of these things are blockages and they're 3D realities. And generally we have an attachment to them. And each time it'll come up, it's going to test you and show you otherwise. That was a hard path, I must say. And I had all of those things happen. So, even statements they make and you continually repeat to yourself, that's a little bit of a wound there. It might be that they come to you and say they want a kid, and you're like, what? I mean, for me, it was that my twin never wanted a kid, but he had 5. I was like, what? So you've got to look at these things and go, that doesn't make any sense to me, but it doesn't have to because life doesn't make sense. But do we change our mind? Yes. And regardless of what you can and can't give them, love is separate to what you can give me. It is. It's got nothing to do with it. Codependency is to do with what you can give me. Love is to do with, hey, I just love you. You're a shit, I love you. I do. Unconditional is you can do something wrong. This is unconditional. How many of us love our kids unconditionally? It's like, oh, God, they've gone and done something. And it's a bit like bailing them out. Oh, I've got to bail you out now. What the hell have you gone into? Hades, Shit. Having a Turkish coffee and I got the message. I was like, I have to broach this. So when that happens, you're there. Certain mothers, not all mothers. Not all fathers. Certain. Doesn't even have to be a DNA parent. Certain. There is a particular energy that can and a particular energy that can't. Now, the ones that have conditional love is, you need to behave in this format or I won't love you. Now, that can be a benchmark, but it can't be an expectation. Because if it's never forgiving, never understanding, that kind of is problematic. My phone was at 55, charge time was... Yeah, well, at the moment, we're ending the 5s with 2021. Okay, we're moving into the 6s, which is level up, do the work. 6 in astrology relates to health. Jupiter's moving into Pisces, 12th house. A lot of our wounds, if we don't have mastery on them, old habits will come up. So, yes, moving into reunion, it is triggering. I'm not going to lie to you. I may get a couple of twins that did reconcile. I'll touch base with them and I'll see if I can interview them and we can have a candid conversation, about some of these things. And, some of them have been watching me. And if you're one of the group that has been watching me and you're listening, come through, message me on the website and we'll tee it up. And we can have that candid conversation about these things. I mean, for me, purely, I do not have my twin on YouTube because I protect his integrity. I protect his privacy. And that's for his sake and his family. So I choose to be on here as a psychic medium, a spiritual coach and a soul healer. And my experience in the path I share, which is joint energy, we have conversations about these things, about our learnings and our lessons. And I share them with you. But it doesn't need him to be physically on the camera for me not to be able to share these things. These things I'm sharing are things we've directly gone through together. And this is my part of the path. His role in his part of the path is what he's doing, which is his spiritual mission. So we aren't codependent on each other. We have our own spiritual mission. We're working together. And your spiritual mission ends up being you directly impacting and changing other people around you. And it's merely by being you, especially in the first flavors. So when we talk about going into mission, your healing is part of it because you need to be prepared. So you do tend to go through a hard time. But also on the opposite side of the spectrum, initially it's not wise to get into anything in a work sense together in the very early stages of reconciliation. It's not. Because you're still healing. You do the healing externally, then you go into it and you need to give it some time. You need to, and I find this even with YouTubers that have been, gone into union. I'm probably the only YouTuber I know that you saw, and tell me if I'm wrong, chuck me onto some of the channels that, maybe during that process from 2017, I was in a connection, separated, had a separation, reconnected with twin, communicated, had movement, reconciled. By end of 2017, it was over. And I did have a choice back then to go, okay, do I stay on YouTube or do I leave? And that was, where I was in my journey. I must say, I had already been down that rabbit hole 20 years with this connection, had been married, had separated, long time, right? So what you were able to witness was me in a soulmate connection, going through an awakening, which I had been seeing numbers. I didn't understand what was happening to me. I was very confused. I was playing a role in my family. It wasn't really resonating with me. I was trying to be too many things to too many people, felt like the black sheep of the family. And then from there, it was pretty much, okay, well, what's going on with me? My life felt like it was falling down around me. Also, because we are trying to find that soul tribe, what does tend to happen, which is really difficult, is when you find a family that you feel is really going to love you and then they don't, you feel abandoned again. And so you're like, wow, this made me feel like I was in a family, which, to be quite honest, it was one of the most beautiful experiences to be able to have a soulmate connection and to feel part of a connection, But it also taught me what my worth was. So after that, with the reconciliation, we had the separation with twin. And a lot of the purging experience I didn't show on YouTube because I really don't think it would have served a purpose. If anything, it would have put people in turmoil. And the choice to stay on YouTube for me as a divine feminine, balancing my divine masculine, is no, this is all about healing right now where I'm at. And that was where I was at psychologically. So a lot of you that are reaching union, a lot of where you're at, 9 times out of 10, many of you won't want reconciliation with your twin because it hasn't been about that. It's been about the ascension. It's been about, I just want to function. And that's why you're going to get your union, because you're not codependent, because you're moving through that. It doesn't mean to say other people aren't going to have their reconciliation. It just means their healing style will be in a different way. Okay? Now, the other thing is, with us coming into union, I had reunion with me first. I was at peace. I was like, peace, baby. Now, reconciliation. The other thing is, you're watching a person cycling situations out of their life, and you're like, that looks messy. You're viewing your healing process and you're meant to stay observing and watching that person go through it because it's giving you a secondary stage healing. The other thing is, if something is coming up and it's not matching the vibration that can be on your side, feminine, their side, you need to sort that out. External energies, when we are helping everyone up all the time, you're not allowed to. Your soul won't let you, your guides won't let you, you can't enable. So it's almost like universe keeps slapping you on the wrist. And so you'll find you'll be helping your brother, father, sister, mother, and there's helping and there's enabling. There's a difference. And if you've been enabling areas and that's your twin as well, your hand's going to get slapped and you're going to keep hitting walls. Because you're not allowed to. That's not your role. You are to vibe like light. If they ask, it's permission-based. You can then give advice. But you can't enable. You won't be allowed to. You will get disciplined. That's why a lot of us readers on YouTube at the moment, you can see we're changing. It's because we're having our upgrades and we're being shown the new way that we have to do for next year. So we're shifting those perspectives. And it's funny that Venus is retrograde, So many YouTubers, and it's been YouTubers I've been talking to, and this will be happening in your life too, Twin Flames, is that your role is shifting for next year. So a lot of things that you're needing to leave behind, like really unused luggage, you're having to ditch it. It's not going to work no more. Has to go. Does this make sense? Any questions before I have a brief break and come back and do the twin flame update? So look, I can be honest with you. You need, if you are in a twin flame reunion and you're triggered, book a reading. Even if you, because we can only ever really link into where you're at. The other thing is, I'm going to be doing education content next year. I'm also watching very, very attentively what videos are getting viewed on this platform. And if the comments are there, if the likes are there. Because if you want to keep that content there, the comments need to be there. The likes need to be there. The feedback, you know, what you're looking for so I can develop it. Number one is I am going to be doing a lot of education content next year. Because that way, in between the karmic reads, which there'll be another one next week, you know, at the moment, because I'm building all these platforms, I'm doing the best I can, but I'm one person. I do advertising, marketing, coaching. You know, I'm getting all the education templates, and I still have to sit down and do the, you know, the actual putting together of it. And, you know, somebody asked me the other day, with the 12 zodiac signs, how long can it take? And it can take up to a week. So, you know, when they don't get viewed, it is a bit frustrating because each video can take up to an hour turnaround, even though it's a 20-minute video. So that is for each individual video. And then no comments equal it's going down. And that, look, if it's valuable, it's valuable. If it's not, it's not. It's the way it goes. But there is going to be, I am sort of gauging it towards karmic reads. And I may even gear it around then the masculines and the feminines, but I'm adding it to them. But it's can you explain twin versus karmic? It seems that twins act in a karmic mode. Because we do, because we attract karmics. We are, how do I put it? A karmic is a person, yes, but don't be a karmic. Karmic energy is what we hold in a value sense. So how do I give an example? If you're wanting revenge on your person, you know, that's karmic, that's in you. If you are maybe trying to manipulate a situation, that's karmic energy. It's like that you're playing chess. Don't play chess. Drop it. But it's behavioral. It's the codependency. There's manipulation that can come through in twin flame path. There's, you know, projection. Yeah, sometimes many twins can say, oh, is my twin a narcissist? And it's like, step back for a bit. Usually it depends on the circumstance. Some may have addictive tendencies, and so it can be that the behavior is. Some it may be the projection, and it's because we are trying to control, and that can be on one side or the other. And if you're trying to control, yeah, they're going to have an opinion about it because nobody wants to be parented. Nobody wants to be told what to do, and you shouldn't have to tell a person to behave. You can say, hey, this is my benchmark. This is the only thing I will accept. And that's in a healthy octane. You know, if a person speaks to you rudely, you can say, I don't like the way you've spoken to me. I don't appreciate that. And if they keep going, walk out. You have to follow through. It's not, if you do that to me. But we have those inside us, Jasper. You know, it's us as well. It's the behaviors are there, but it's coming from a wound. That's all. It's not that any person is a bad person. It's that we are exhibiting wounds. And at the moment, a lot of people are feeling wounds, triggered, emotional, disillusioned. But this eclipse is pushing you. It's like, level up, level up. It's like, okay, what do you want to build? What do you want to do? What is the biggest thing in your life at the moment that's coming up? We had Juno retrograde in Sagittarius. Again, feminines assessed it, but it was in the South Node. Now it's coming out of the South Node. By the end of this month, with the eclipse, it's all popping off. Everything to do with the connection. You know, so it's gonna feel like a roller coaster. So it will be a true test of whether you're ready to be the Fool card in tarot with the smarts. Yeah, you do have karmic cycles with twin flame journey because, you know, look at yourself as a chakra system, right? Your blockages that you've culminated in your whole life are like a good handbag, right? And you've filled all that crap up and their belief systems and paradigms and wounds. And then you meet this person, and what they've done is open Pandora's box. And once that happens, it ain't staying in no more. It's all coming out. And so you have to turn yourself into a navigation system. You need to rid your body of it. And it can be quite gross to do. You also have to look at the shadow and learn and kind of understand what that all meant. And you're retraining an adult brain. You're retraining an adult body to do these things. And it's hard to train adults. Let's be perfectly honest. Children are subtle. That's why they absorb things. And if they absorb the wrong things early on, we've got some problems, haven't we? And then to unwire that as we're older, it can be done, but you usually feel you're in a punching ring because you are, it's like telling someone the world is flat and then coming to a revelation that you get to the end of it and it's not. You're like, no, it's flat. It's bloody flat. And I'm not even going to get into whether it is or isn't. You know what I mean? So, it's not flat. It's round. No, it's flat. It's hard because your body has its psyche. Your mum and dad or whoever that person was in your life, maybe you had nobody in your life and you had to parent yourself. You've created this conditioning. And then what you're going to get is men are from Mars, women are from Venus. And it's not man and woman. It's yin yang. That's what it is. It's not about sexuality. It's not about, man or female. It's the logic. It's the body. It's the way we. So on their side of the fence, I'll be perfectly honest with you. In a masculine attribute of things, they want this, right? Say what you mean and mean what you say. You know how many times I mince my words with my twin and he would never enable me and he'd go, well, if you want to go and do that, you can do that. And I'd be like, why didn't he give me what I wanted? Because I was giving my power away. If you don't date me, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And then he'd be like, go ahead and do it then. Because why? They're not a parent and you're sending mixed signals. If you're truly invested, you're not going to play chess, you're not going to threaten, you're not going to manipulate. You're going to go, you're my one, right? I know what I want. You're thinking they haven't made up their mind, but you haven't made up your mind because you're trying to negotiate. You don't need to negotiate. You don't. It either is or it isn't. And if it isn't, you pass your attention back into your life. And 9 times out of 10, this has always happened in Twin Flame Path. They really want to give you a lot of attention because you have purpose. When you don't have purpose and you turn them into the purpose, I call it something about Mary. They think we're stalkers. It's very karmic-y. Well, okay, sorry. Well, you're busy. I've got a life too. I've got friends. I've got, jobs. I've got things I have to do in my life. And, it's a little bit like getting that phone call at 3 a.m. in the morning. It's like, how you doing? I'm asleep. That's how I'm doing. Goodbye. Don't answer. If this person texts you all the time and it's always in text, if it's been a while, you can respond, right? If it's been a while and you haven't heard and you're like, oh shit, they've messaged, yeah, respond. But in the same element, if you've had crumbs, and it's been most recent, and they're saying one thing and doing another, we're in a relationship, we're not in a relationship, we're in a relationship, oh, we're doing this, oh, I love you so much. You need to not respond. And I can guarantee you, how many of you have followed me for 5 years? I'm almost breaking the big 5. That's really sad, eh? Next year it's 5 years. And I have been seen 1.3 million times and I'm still at 10,000 subscribers. So, we're going to giggle and I was laughing about this yesterday. You're going to have times when you have to say no. And if you don't communicate, I can guarantee you, what are they going to do? This bitch ain't answering. They're not answering. Is there something wrong? And they will call you. And that's where you can be ever so calm and you can talk. But you always want to get it out of a text message. You don't want to remain in a text message. Text messages can be misinterpreted, misunderstood. They have no emotion to them. A word does, but unless you're a great artist and you're a great writer, the other person will be able to tell the undertones of sarcasm. You get what I'm saying? So you really, really, really want to get it off text. Healthy boundaries and a connection. If you are allowing people to walk over you and you're the feminine and the masculine is doing the same thing, you have a common denominator there, and you need to start creating healthy boundaries with people around you. But don't forget the people that were there. You know, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Sprinklers are on, they're noisy. Okay, I'm going to have a mini break. I am having, at the minute, I'll come back and we'll do the twin flame update. I'll do the twin flame reading. If you're new, if you subscribe, and this may be a permanent thing, all right? So at the moment, I haven't said how many I'm giving away, but there is one for the Members Hub, and it's a 1-hour free Skype reading I'm going to be giving away by the end of the year. 24th of December, I'm launching it. It's going to be posted in the community tab. And I'm also doing it for the subscribers. But you must be a subscriber, okay? That comes down to doing the right thing on the channel and becoming a community member, you know, becoming part of this tribe. I will be giving, I'm not telling you how many, but there's one on either side at this point, but I'll gauge how it is. Now, if it is popular and it does help grow the channel, I will do it every month. If it's not, I'm dropping it like it's hot, okay? I will see you shortly. I have the webinar on the website. I'll give you the more updates in the other video. Otherwise, I'll see you soon.